Hello there. I'm Dr. Gwilym David Blunt, philosopher, academic, and author. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my book, Global Poverty, Injustice, and Resistance, from Cambridge University Press. I want to tell you a little bit about why I wrote this book and why you might be interested in it if you're interested in topics like human rights, global inequality, the right of resistance, militant trade unions, armed struggle, illegal immigration. The whole world is in this book, I guess. So, fair warning, I am an aging millennial with little working knowledge of the internet or iMovie. My sense of humor is somewhere between dad and dentist. My office is a mess. I'm wearing track pants. Welcome to Behind the Camera. I hope you know what you're getting into. So, where to begin? When I was a student many, many years ago, I got really interested in the debate on global distributive justice. This debate has two parts. The distributive justice element is about how we distribute the benefits and burdens of social cooperation. We see this in action when we think about things like the welfare state. The global part of it is about what obligations we have to people when we don't have a shared nationality or a shared state identity. That is what drives the debate. And there are two broad camps in it: cosmopolitan and anti-cosmopolitan. So cosmopolitans think that we have wide-ranging obligations of global distributive justice. And there are a lot of reasons to think this. Some are luck egalitarians, so they think that where we're born really shouldn't matter when it comes to our life chances, because no one chooses to be born in Central African Republic or the United States of America or Vietnam. It's trivial, so why should some people be born into poverty and others be born into affluence? How is that fair? Other cosmopolitans look at globalization, and they say our economic interdependence is ethically relevant because we're in the circumstances of justice. I mean, think about your clothes. Is anything you're wearing made in the country that you live in? Probably not. Not if you live in the global north. And that creates obligations to distribute the benefits and burdens of social cooperation. Now, regardless of how they get there, cosmopolitans all agree we have strong obligations of global distributive justice. While an anti-cosmopolitan is going to say that they need to slow their roll. Slow your roll? Fine. We need to be a bit more conservative. National communities and the state are incredibly important when we think about distributive justice, because after all, the welfare state requires national solidarity, people paying taxes, trust, a shared history. Cosmopolitans think the world is without nations and without states, but we know that that's not true. They naturally delimit our obligations of justice. Wait, this is not going to be a deep dive into cosmopolitanism and anti-cosmopolitanism. Rather, all you need to take away from this is that I became a fairly convinced cosmopolitan. So much so, I decided to do a PhD at University College London on cosmopolitanism and transnational philanthropy. But, like any good grad student, I got a little bit distracted. You see, I was reading so much cosmopolitan literature, so much global distributive justice literature, that I began to develop a sort of intellectual vertigo. A cosmopolitan argument would have an anti-cosmopolitan reply. There would be a riposte to the reply, a reply to the riposte, and a riposte to the riposte, and it kept on going on, and it seemed like it would never stop. The debate was so circular. Welcome to academia. Not quite yet, Dr. Blunt. More to the point, even if you were a convinced cosmopolitan, what that meant was incredibly ambiguous. What you should do with that. People didn't have a lot to say. Charles Bite suggested that we have a sort of Tobin tax structure where financial transactions that go across borders, a little bit would be taken out, put in a big pool for the global poor. Thomas Paga, on the other hand, said that we should have a global resource dividend. So whenever a state was cutting down a tree or drilling for oil or mining coal, they would have to take a little slice, put it in a common fund that would be used to reduce global inequality. What all cosmopolitans seemed to say was that the entire structure of the world economy needed to be pretty fundamentally altered in order for us to live up to our obligations of distributive justice. So let's do a little poll. If you think the most affluent people in the world who benefit from the international system as it currently exists will voluntarily restructure everything, making their lives considerably worse in order to benefit the world's bottom billion people, like this video. Yeah, it's a pickup shot. It's night outside now. Who am I? Martin Scorsese? I'm a politics lecturer. Cut me some slack. Now, on the other hand, if you think that the people who control the majority of the world's wealth are not going to be rushing to redistribute it to the bottom billion of humanity, click subscribe. Wink. So look, I became a little bit frustrated. On the one hand, cosmopolitans say that severe inequality is an injustice that is not trivial. Some of them compare it to the Holocaust, but their solutions to it don't seem practical, or at least realizable. I don't think we're going to see something like a global resource dividend in the next century, perhaps even the next 2 centuries. So what do we do? What do we do in the here and now? Now, some cosmopolitans, to be fair, do address this. Peter Singer, for example, and the effective altruists say that above a certain threshold, we should give away all of our money to effective international charities. I think it's anything above $20,000 should go to an effective charity to ameliorate the worst effects of global poverty. Make it just a little bit better until those big systemic changes come sometime in the future. It's a great idea, right? Wonderful idea. Spoiler alert, this has not generated a stampede of giving since 1972 when it was first proposed. It sort of, to me, seems like, I don't know, sending a care package to a war zone, right? Now, it might make the family who gets it better off for a couple of days. It might make their lives a bit more tolerable. But they're still in a war zone, right? They're still in a war zone. It is not a solution that matches the urgency of the problem. And that is where the germ of my book took root. Word of advice, if you're thinking of becoming an academic, find something you're interested in, because it can be a big slog. I published my first article on this topic in 2011, and I published the book in 2019. It took years of research to do. Things move at a snail's pace, but if you've got the passion, it can be extremely rewarding. Well, guess what? That brings us to the end of this video, but I really hope that you'll tune in for the next episode, where I'm going to talk a little bit more about the arguments underpinning this, explaining what the right of resistance is, looking at severe injustice, and looking at what it means to engage in resistance and what we owe to people engaging in resistance. Thank you very much for tuning in, and take care, everyone.